In this video, it's a Dollar Tree extravaganza, starting out with these little doll houses. Now I was on the Tabletop Crafters Guild, and someone noted that these actually kind of fit together, so you can actually kind of make like a full house out of the two facade doll houses. They looked pretty interesting. I figured I could maybe do some quick alterations and make them into something a little bit more fantasy medieval. The first step is that I cut out one of the doors, and I wanted to experiment with EVA foam. And this ended up being a real dumb idea. Now, EVA foam works great for shingles. It, in fact, does not work good for stonework. I spent way too much time trying to texture it. Ugh. I blocked off the one panel of the house with a piece of cardboard and set up some little pieces of coffee stirrers as wooden supports. And that looked really nice on the final project. Obviously, coffee stirrers, I probably could have textured them a little bit more, but I had originally thought this was going to be simplified. I was going to do everything the easy way and experiment with stuff, but yeah, I ended up putting way too much work into something that really I could not justify this much work being put in. I came up with this idea of doing a kind of a section of cardboard and then cutting around the little coffee stirrers there to make the sides of the roof there. That worked out pretty good. And here we have what EVA foam is really good for, shingles. I used several different methods to texture, including this barbecue cleaner. Once again, I did not steal this barbecue cleaner. I came through this barbecue cleaner through legal means, and it works great for texturing various surfaces. And before, I was trying to be fancy with snipping of the shingles, but frankly, all you need to do is just make little cuts with a scissors. No need to measure it out like I was doing before. The roof is flat, so I got some big fat barbecue skewers here to make a little bit of a point on the roof, so I could continue attaching those shingles and have it kind of just be the classic peaked roof. And I could have done this a little bit prettier on top. I could have stretched out the EVA foam so the shingles would have been a little bit spaced out, but I think in the final product, it's fine. And oh my goodness, I certainly have learned what dormers are. These are the little gabled windows that I screwed up. I kind of did like a weird eyebrow style dormer, but these would have looked really nice as like the classic like gabled or maybe even like a segmented thing. But yeah, I kind of screwed these up a little bit, but yeah, dormers. When there's a little roof above a window, I've learned it's called a dormer. And just to note, when I'm doing the top layer of shingles on the peak of the roof, I have found that just using super glue, just lock them down one by one, it's the easiest way. And here I am finishing up my little weirdo eyebrow windows. I was actually thinking this would actually be a very good way to do the shingles on windows if this was like a mimic house. So the windows were supposed to look like eyes. I think that would look pretty cool. This is actually a little bit thicker of an EVA. These are scraps that were left over, and boy, even though they're thick, they are not good for stonework. I did my best. I both used a pen and an X-Acto knife. I thought, now this was a quick way to do it, very quick. Just hot glue this strip of EVA on the thing to obscure the kind of weird cracks and stuff. So it did work quickly, but the texture for stone is just very hard to get into EVA. But speaking about texture, though, this is something that worked amazingly well. PVA glue plus baking soda made an amazing texture. Now, if you use sand or something like that, sometimes the texture just seems too big. But I think baking soda just gives you this really interesting texture that is going to be small enough for 28mm that it looks amazing. And I did use a couple dots of super glue here and there to make sure that it stuck onto the material. And here I use some Vallejo Mecha Surface Primer to prime up the plastic bits that were still visible, you know, just to make sure that the paint would stick on there, because I was using the classic Mod Podge and paint style. Afterwards, a very simple paint job. I cannot stress this enough. This is basically just dry brushing and then adding some washes on to the wood and stone parts. That's literally all I did. If you want to see the full painting stream, I will link that below. I was done with this in under an hour and a half, I believe. So I was trying to try out some new stuff. So here we are. Certainly the final project, except for the stonework. The final project looks really nice. I think the shingles, even though they are the thicker EVA foam, they look okay. I would be interested in my next building to try the thinner EVA foam. I was able to get some thin EVA foam on Amazon that I think would be perfect for shingles, but I was trying to use up this scrap EVA for this project. So yeah, I think from far away the stonework looks okay, but I'm actually really impressed with the doorway. I mean, the doorway of the dollhouse is 3 separate plastic pieces, and I think it looks really nice. It kind of looks a little bit different from the rest of it now that I've kind of textured the whole thing. But that doorway is just a fun little fancy doorway. And you can see where like some of the texturing from the walls there, I mean, it just kind of ties everything together. And of course, I didn't do a great job of preparing this thing, but it does have a little bit open so I can use LEDs on the inside and whatnot. Here's another shot of that glorious texture. You really have to kind of see it in person to realize how that tiny little bits of texture. I would have done less. I did about like 50-50, 50% PVA, 50% baking soda. I would have done a little less baking soda because the texture is very subtle and nice. And here we have the original house that I built, the first house that I tried to craft. And you know what? I think I've made some leaps and bounds in terms of stuff. I keep that crappy house around just to show myself how much I've progressed. Here we have the last building that I did, which kind of shows that the texturing on the... this is Dollar Store foam core. That kind of XPS foam style stuff. It's kind of night and day, really. The EVA foam just doesn't do as good of a job as the XPS stuff does. And I was very sloppy with the stonework on the house to the right, too. But even though I was sloppy, it's still clear. It still looks good. The thinner foam on the one on the right there for the EVA foam shingles. And you know what? Now that I look at it, I think I just did a much better job at texturing the thicker stuff, and from the top, you can't really tell how like thick it is. And here we have the difference. This is some cardboard on the wagon to the right for the roof there. And here we have the building compared to a Dwarven Forge house. And I'm getting very close to getting some techniques that will allow me to build stuff of similar quality at a fraction of the cost. And honestly, this is the 4th house I've ever made, and already I think it looks good enough on the table where it's not going to like stand out or look weird with some of the mass-produced stuff like Dwarven Forge that I own. And I really do find that encouraging as I move on and keep on trying new things, making terrain. And hey, don't worry, there's going to be more dollar store conversions happening very soon. Those little bits that you saw at the beginning, as well as some of the little bits of plastic that came with the dollhouse. I've made some interesting little things. I'm going to make a second video this week that includes all of that good stuff. If you have any questions about this build, please let me know in the comments below. As always, your support is what keeps this little channel going. You can find all the links to support this channel in the description below. But as always, if you just want to share some of the favorite videos that you really like, if you really like a video, then please share it on social media and whatnot. and to let other people know about the dumb stuff that I'm doing on the Blandco channel. I'm sure other people might enjoy it as well. And because YouTube was lying about the whole 10-minute video thing, I'm just going to speak in gibberish for a couple seconds here to make sure this video is over 10 minutes. Okay, that should do it.